Hey revolutionaries, I'm excited to bring you this week's episode where I'm talking to a prophet and a wizard about creating a community, a cryptocurrency community. Yep, that's right. You're just going to have to listen to the episode to figure out who's the wizard and who's the prophet between Dan Borovik and Justin Cohn. But before we get to the episode and speaking about community, just want to let you know I'm down in Orlando, Florida right now recording this intro, and I'm here at PodFest, and what a great community this PodFest conference brings together with all the Podfesters that I've been meeting. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Chris Komitsis. I hope one of those pronunciations is correct. In any event, he's created an amazing conference, and if you haven't been to PodFest, definitely check it out for next year. It's a great place to just connect and find all these media that are people that are into the new media, blogging and podcasting and such. It's an amazing group of people that are all about, raising each other up. So definitely give it a shot. And I had a chance to watch the Messengers podcast movie. It's amazing. It's on Amazon Prime and Amazon. Check out The Messengers, search for it, and if you get a chance to watch it. It's a documentary on podcasting. Also, I had a chance to reconnect with Stephanie Lahart, who I interviewed on episode 9. She's a social media expert, and she was giving a presentation this time around at the conference, and she gave a great presentation, and she actually featured 2 slides, screenshots from Jim's Reinvention Revolution Facebook page, where showing before and after shots of how she recommended I make posts on there and how to get more impressions. So thanks for the shout out, Stephanie, and I'm giving you a shout out right back. So if you're listening to this episode, I want people to know about you. And also anyone else that I met at the show at PodFest, if they're listening, shout out to everyone else I was able to meet and connect with. I met just a bunch of amazing people. And speaking of amazing people, let's get on with this week's episode with Justin and Dan and hear about the rest of the guys that are creating this community with them in the Crypto Cleveland Collective.
Welcome to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit jimreinventionrevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, Jim.
So we're recording. Okay, check 1 2 1 2. You can check that mic there.
1 2 1 2.
Okay.
Cinnamon buns.
Cinnamon buns. Cinnamon buns. I like that. That's the perfect mic test. Cinnamon buns. Say it one more time.
Cinnamon buns.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, let's kick this off. Let's get going here. All right. Hey everybody. Hey, this is Jim, and welcome to episode 22 of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm sitting here today with crypto trading wizard Dan Borovik and digital prophet Justin Cohn, and we're talking cryptocurrency trading, consulting, and community. So, gentlemen, welcome to the revolution.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us here today, Jim.
All right, man. Well, thanks for taking time out of your day to be here. I really appreciate it. And I want you to explain those titles in a second, because I don't know if I've ever talked to a wizard and a prophet at the same time before. I mean, like individually, that happens for me occasionally in my social life, but never at the same time, a prophet and wizard. Anyways, but before we get going, I wanted to mention that I think it was just yesterday that Facebook has decided to ban all advertising for cryptocurrency, for ICOs, anything related. And even like the big, face of cryptocurrency on the internet, or certainly on Facebook, James Altucher, he's basically having to pull all his ads down and everything that he's doing. And they even had comments from him, I was just looking it up, that he says, you know what, I'm okay with it because, there's some crazy stuff happening out there. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, because you guys are really into the space, and we'll talk about what you're doing with your agents here in a second. But what are your thoughts on Facebook and what's going on with it?
I see where he's coming from with the ban of the cryptocurrency ads on Facebook, because there are people with good intentions running legit businesses to help people learn and navigate through cryptocurrencies and how to trade. And there are people with not so good intentions as you saw with USI-Tech and BitConnect, who were also running advertisements.
Right.
And
explain that for everybody who's listening out there, because I'm glad you mentioned that, and this is Justin speaking, by the way, because there have been some kind of Ponzi schemes and scams and just really messed up things that have been in the space. And I think people that have been watching the space for a while, going back to like Mt. Gox days, maybe this is why people are very suspect of cryptocurrencies. But explain what these latest two things are you just mentioned, Justin, or Dan, whoever wants to jump in.
USI-Tech and BitConnect, you could label them as a Ponzi scheme because you give them your money in Bitcoin, and they pay you, I think it's about 1% per day, but you have to hold it in there for 100 days or 200 days, a certain amount of days, and they will pay you 1%. So I guess the government kind of clapped down on them on BitConnect, and they decided to leave the United States and Canada. So they're the BitConnect, the price just dropped. It plummeted down like to almost nothing. So everyone is freaking out. How
a chunk of their market away, essentially, right?
Yeah, people were wondering how are we going to get our money out? What's going on? I have a couple buddies that were actually part in BitConnect and USI-Tech. They've been trying to contact both of them, and well, it's kind of hectic. Everyone's trying to contact them, so they're not getting back to anyone on time, and just big mess right now.
I see. So I think this is the government starting to catch up to the leading edge of the technology, and the technologists are trying a lot of different things, and maybe things that are not so cool, or just kind of culturally unaccepted, maybe. In this case, I think it was probably like just a bad deal for the people that were signing up for BitConnect, where it's like they didn't understand how much money's being made and why they had to keep their money in and all this kind of stuff, because it's just so early on, and people are maybe getting into being attracted to these things that are not maybe above board, right?
So relating it back to the Facebook ads,
yeah,
when things like this happen, it's very bad publicity for any person who's new into the crypto market. It scares them away from it because they don't know how to recognize something good from something that's a scam. And that's exactly what Facebook has intended that they need to figure out, as to how to differentiate the legitimate ads from companies like BitConnect and USI-Tech that aren't running businesses with good ethics and morals, so that this doesn't happen to the crypto space again. So I understand where they're coming from that standpoint, and I think that's very important to do. They said it's only a temporary ban; it's not permanent. They just need to figure out a solution to differentiate.
Gotcha. So they're just trying to get their arms around it. I think it makes sense to kind of be conservative in this way, even though, for you guys, it might, really be affecting your business or what you're trying to do. So that's why I wanted to get your thoughts on it first, just to kind of put it in context with what's going on and see how you guys think about it, because you guys recently started this, I guess, consulting agency or collective. Maybe you can explain to me the two things you have going on, because I know you have this CryptoCleveland.com kind of website and consulting agency you've thrown together recently, but also you've created this Facebook community and are creating really a larger community here in the Cleveland area and maybe across the world now that people are going to be listening to you on the podcast here. So what have you guys been into? Tell me about Crypto Cleveland.
So about early December, Seva, he came to me and he just started talking about how great of an opportunity it would be for us to connect, start this community in Cleveland, because there's really nothing like that in Cleveland, and I've had tons of friends asking me for the last few months, like, hey, what do I do? Like, I hear you're in crypto. So we both thought it would be best to start this community so we could help, newcomers, just people in the Cleveland area, give them a place to actually physically come, not only the Facebook group, but thanks to Launchhouse, they could actually come here to our free crypto meetup events and, firsthand talk to us, learn, come to the seminar that we just had.
Right. Yeah, let me jump in here for a second. So, Seva Dorn. So, people that have been listening to the podcast out there, Seva was on episode 6, and so I met Seva, gosh, maybe about a year ago now, something like that. And he's digital marketing expert, and he's got his e-commerce stores that he's running, but he's also into the crypto space. And he was connected here at Launchhouse. And how did you guys? Were you a friend of Seva's previously, or how did you get connected with him? And Seva's part of this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're all in this together. It's me, Seva, Justin Cohn, Gerald Khalil, Mike Gonzalez, Peter.
All right.
We're all in this together right now. But how I met Seva was, I didn't physically meet him in person until December, but I've talked to him on Facebook on multiple occasions over the last year. Mm-hmm. And we've had a lot of mutual friends, so
okay.
It was really good finally connecting with him. We found out we were both Russian, so
okay. So you had the Russian connection,
yes.
You had the technology connection,
mm-hmm.
in the cryptos and stuff like that. Obviously, he was digging into it as well.
Yeah.
So, but the idea for coming together in this group, just when did that happen? Was that in December, January?
Yeah,
December
that was in
timeframe?
December. See, I brought my friend Justin Cohen and Gerald Khalil over, and we met with Seva and Mike Gonzalez, and that's when we just kind of had this idea to just use all of our skills collectively. We each have our
mm-hmm.
unique skill, kind of what you were mentioning at the beginning of the podcast. You were saying wizard, prophet.
Okay.
So on cryptocleveland.com, we have all of our specialties on there.
Okay.
In a little funny way.
Yeah, I like the sense of humor you guys, the spin you guys put on it. So yeah, maybe we can just discuss that a little bit more now. So yeah, tell me what a crypto trading wizard is. So Dan, that's your
that's my title.
So what role do you play with the collective?
So not only do I do consulting, but I also I analyze the market, and I specialize in TA, technical analysis, where I use different kind of indicators. I use Fibonacci, I use the volume, I just look at different kind of patterns in the market, the
mm-hmm.
RSI, these are just some fancy words I'm just throwing out there, but all of these indicators, they just help me figure out the best entry and the best exits for different kind of cryptocurrencies I'm trading. So that's why it's called Wizard.
Gotcha. All right. So he's on the technical side, which is, we've discussed a bunch, just me hanging around the Launchhouse here. And now you guys have an office here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's been since December timeframe or so, right?
Mid-December.
Mid-December. Okay. So you guys are here full time. So people that are just, in the Cleveland area or traveling into town and looking for a co-working space to hang out, if you come here, maybe you'll run into these guys and you can, I'm sure they'll be glad to talk crypto with you, because that's what they do. But Justin, what is a digital prophet?
I got the title Digital Prophet because I do a lot of research. I like to find which companies, which startups have the most potential, and I do fundamental analysis on if they meet certain qualifications to have a significant growth within the short, mid to long term future. I don't like giving advice for anyone to invest in anything that I wouldn't think is a very significant long-term substantial project that isn't solving any real-world problems. So I do analysis
mm-hmm.
on all these digital currencies that use blockchain and pick out the best ones.
Okay, cool. So that's nice. I think it's a good combination because you're looking at the overall, I guess, really risk profile in a way, right?
Yes.
And kind of the strategic, longer-term view of the world. But at the same time, Dan's like, hey, I can dial down into the weeds and really hot rod this thing, basically, like jump in and out.
Make sure Dan can find good entry points, good exit points.
Right.
It works really great together.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great relationship. And some of the other guys, they have, what are their roles? Just to give people a overall perspective of Crypto Cleveland.
So Gerald Khalil is the marketing guy. He's, what was his title, like marketing wizard or I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't know what his special title is, but yeah.
Gerald, he's a genius when it comes to marketing. So he handles that end, and the customer service too. Like
Gotcha.
people who are interested in consulting, they would email Gerald. He answers the calls. He does that end of it.
Right.
Then we have Mike Gonzalez. Mike Gonzalez, he's the social media guy, the content guy. He's helping us make our online course, and he's helping us make our blockchain book right now.
Okay, so you have some product offerings in development.
He has a fancy name in there too on the website.
Okay.
And then there's Peter. Peter is just our one of our programmers who is helping us design our crypto Cleveland coin right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
He just goes by Peter. None of us know his last name.
That's how programmers are, right?
Yeah, he's
you don't even know
anonymous.
Peter's his real name, probably, right? Okay, I got
Exactly.
you. Peter Satoshi probably is his last name.
Yeah.
Right?
But yeah, he's excellent with anything with the computer and coding and algorithm, and he's very helpful with ICOs and things like that.
I gotcha. Oh, well, that's really cool. Yeah, I didn't know about that. You had this programmer Peter involved, so that's really. It's nice that you guys have all these disciplines and that you're coming together, so you can really be a formidable resource for the community that you're building, and any clients, future clients that you end up picking up here. So, and speaking about that, like I just attended, and these guys just had their first community event. It was over this past weekend, right? Is that
Yeah,
what
it was Sunday.
It was a few days ago, right?
Yeah.
It's been a lot. I just had gotten back from San Francisco, so I'm still getting over some jet lag, everybody here. But and thanks, I was able to just kick it off a little bit with a few slides of talking about the Blockchain Connect conference that I had attended, and just giving my thoughts and just a little flavor of that event. But your event was very successful. You had tens of people there, 10, 15, something like that, right? And for a first event, and it was kind of like a screwy thing in terms of getting it rescheduled and such.
We run into a lot of advertising problems, so we didn't even get that much word or advertisement out there.
Right. So it's kind of last second thing you pulled together, but it was really a good thing, and it was streamed live on Facebook. So Seva was manning the camera for that, and it seemed like the feedback from everyone else I talked to after the event, they were really pumped to discover the group and pumped to discover the Launchhouse too, because it was here at the Launchhouse. So like, what is this place? So a few people were asking me after the event, and they had no idea what the Launchhouse was even. And it's a co-working space where, again, entrepreneurial people can get together, like-minded people can get together, and foster the community and make everything grow. So what did you guys think of the event? And do you have any other more events planned, or what's going on with that?
So I forgot to mention Seva in the last bit, but Seva's the brains of everything. So
okay.
He kind of does a little. He does a little of everything. Make sure everything's organized.
Uh-huh.
So the seminar went great. Like we said before, we ran into a couple obstacles. Had to reschedule because of just a few minor. We're new here at Launchhouse, so there's other events we have to kind of work around.
Mm-hmm.
But the event went great. What we could have done better next time is maybe just not have gone in as much detail. We did kind of it could be a lot to learn, a lot to hear when you don't know anything about blockchain.
Right.
And we go into so much in one seminar. Could be a little overwhelming to a few people, but we nailed all the key points of how blockchain could revolutionize the world, or not just currency, but in 12 different major categories we talked about. You want to kind of
give me an example of some of the categories you guys were talking about, because I think it's interesting for people to understand that it's not just currency applications, right?
Yeah, we went over what is Bitcoin, how and why did it originate, what are other cryptocurrencies and what are their purposes, what is blockchain, and how significant this is for the future in a number of different industries, anything from retail to real estate, to healthcare, lawyers,
finance.
Banking.
Right.
We went over what we can expect to see in the future with these industries, using blockchain, and how it can benefit us personally as well. That was mainly the main focus, getting people to understand that Bitcoin is much more than just a currency. It's the foundation for blockchain technology, which is revolutionizing our future right as we speak, as we know it, in so many cool and amazing ways.
Yeah, there's a really just a lot of structural things in society that the blockchain will influence and have a hand in. Sort of the financial system is the obvious one for the moment, but supply chain, insurance, smart contracts, so anything that's has any kind of legal language to it. So intermediaries like for real estate, title companies, etc. I mean, there's really some just larger implications. Actually, by the time you're hearing this episode, you probably would have heard episode 21 with Ali Ashir talking about the B token, and that's another application of putting the blockchain or putting centralized applications on the blockchain and decentralizing them. So that's even another application, like the Ubers of the world. So, wild stuff to me. Just the way the world is changing around. And also during the presentation, you guys talked about a little bit about the exchanges and kind of how to get on the exchanges, and I thought that was useful, especially for people like newbies that don't understand, like, well, I heard about Coinbase, I know how to buy Bitcoin, but all these other altcoins, they're not on there. What happens? Like, maybe you can explain that a little bit, just kind of how you did in your presentation of how do you get to the other altcoins and why are these other exchanges exist and such.
So yeah, at the end of our seminar, we went over how to buy on Coinbase. There's a couple of different ways. You could do with your debit or credit card, or you could have it taken out of your bank with an ACH transfer, and there's also wires you can do. But once you actually obtain your Bitcoin or Ethereum, how do you get it to another exchange? So Binance
and why do you need to get it to another exchange?
Right. So the reason you need to get it out of Coinbase is because Coinbase only provides Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. So it's just for their top 10 cryptocurrencies, but that's just scratching the surface of what blockchain really is all about. And if you get on an exchange like Binance or Bittrex, you will find a lot of smaller, lesser known cryptocurrencies that have a lot of real world potential. And so how do we get our Bitcoin from Coinbase to Binance? It's just as simple as sending an email. You have your wallet address from Binance, you put it in on your Coinbase, and you just send it right over. You just pay a small little fee. It's just kind of it's like making a wire transfer. Once it's in your Binance, then you're free to shop around. You can get we were talking about supply chain coins. You can get, there's coins like VeChain. There's coins that are revolutionizing our voting system, like HSR. There's just so many different lower cap coins that aren't as known because Coinbase is such a well-known site. So a lot of people only know what's on Coinbase. They don't know what's out there. That's still a very good buy opportunity.
So that makes sense. So Binance that's your, I guess secondary exchange or trading exchange of choice. That's the one you guys use.
Yeah, that's the main one I use is Binance. We also use EtherDelta. EtherDelta is actually a decentralized exchange, and all that means is that you buy from someone else's wallet. You deposit your funds onto the smart contract of EtherDelta, and you buy directly from another wallet. So it's there's different types of exchanges.
Okay, so I haven't, and that's fairly new, right?
Yeah, it's like a month old.
I see. So the decentralized economy is just starting. It's just starting to get going. I think that's what's exciting about talking to Ali about the B token, co-founder of the B token. These things are really it's kind of blowing my mind where it's just 10 years ago where we had this sort of central sharing economy and these different ways to get linked up in terms of just sharing information and sharing really communication and currency. One of the things that came out of the Blockchain Connect conference when I was out there is just a form of communication. So, obviously we can communicate with words, with sight, with visuals, with movies, etc. But, trading is just another form of communication. And so this decentralized form of communication, basically being able to have peer-to-peer transactions, paying individuals, paying people individually. It's just like now you can finally have an actual just, money conversation with someone directly instead of having this intermediary the whole time, So it's kind of very across the world now. Before it would be you were just limited to your friends, where you give them a few dollars for cash. You just you've done this kind of trading all along, all throughout the history of the world, but now you can do it worldwide in like just a split second. So it's pretty amazing stuff. This is fascinating, and I'm kind of curious as to I'm just getting into it because I've been kind of digging back into the digital world over the last year and a half myself, and that's how I got started doing the podcast and such. But how did you guys get into this initially? I mean, you didn't. It's not like you went to school for cryptocurrency, okay? Like this is not the way the world works these days. And what's your back? Maybe you can talk about your background a little bit too. Like, what were you studying? You're just out of college. This was my interpretation. I don't know exactly how old you guys are, but early years, early part of your life here. And what do your other peers and what do your parents think about it? Because we were talking earlier about, Justin, does your mom and dad know what you're doing? What the heck is going on here?
So I've been doing this for a little while now, and I was really finally just able to explain to them yesterday.
Just yesterday.
About what exactly I am doing.
Okay. And what do they think of it? Do they understand what's really going on, or
it's for a lot of people it's a very difficult concept to understand unless you sit down with them and give them an in-depth run through about exactly everything this is, because there's so much to it. A lot of people, especially my parents, my parents' age and the baby boomer generation, they hear, they've all heard about Bitcoin, but they don't know anything about it. And when you don't know anything about something, then you're susceptible to believing rumors and false claims that the mainstream media likes to put out there.
Sure.
And misinformations. So they had a lot of misinformations about it that had to be explained.
Well, what did they think? Were they taken aback when you told them, like, yeah, I'm trading Bitcoin, Mom, or I'm into cryptocurrencies? Were they afraid for you in some ways?
Yes.
Like, what's happening to my kid? Like, he's going down the wrong path? Or
yeah. Yeah, they've always been nervous about it, and every time they've heard it's gone up, they've tried to tell me to sell.
Right.
Every time it's gone, because a lot of them they think it's a bubble or a fad.
Sure.
Is what most people hear.
Yeah.
Is that it's a bubble or a fad. The term Bitcoin itself is so misleading. It sounds silly, really, at first.
Right.
This it's not, what is it, a coin? It's a digital coin. I mean, what it really is, it a lot of people don't understand. Really, I think a better way that people should start calling it is, I would say, just the future of blockchain technology. Then once people can understand what blockchain technology is, then they can really understand what Bitcoin is, and it's so much more than just this digital currency.
Right.
It's
So how did you get into it? I mean, you're not studying this in high school. I mean, did you go to college to dig into this stuff, or what attracted you to it, and how did you get turned on to it?
Well, the money is what the money we saw people making is what turned us on originally. I was in the stock market before.
Okay. But you were in the stock market, so you were trading stocks, and you kind of knew.
I had a basic understanding of what a market was, and so I was very skeptical of Bitcoin at first. I just thought it sounded silly. I didn't understand it, like most people.
I see.
So I was very skeptical at first. But Danny here, he started learning more about it, and gave it a shot before I did. And I soon enough I started seeing the gains he was making in his account. He'd show me, on the daily 10, 20, 30% return on investment rates.
Right.
And when you look at the market cap and all the coins that were out there, seeing, some of them do 70%, some of them doing 100%. I mean, it was absolutely insane, like single days.
Right.
So I had figured if I could learn more about this market and pinpoint which of these coins were making these significant moves and why they were doing that, catch them early, that there's some significant money to be made.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what ended up catching my interest, is simply seeing Danny's portfolio he'd be showing me.
I gotcha. So Dan was the bad influence for you, or the good influence for you?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, that's cool, man. So you guys have been buddies for a while, or is that? Did you guys grow up together? Go to school together?
So yeah, me and Justin have known each other since early high school.
Okay.
I went to Mayfield, he went to Solon, but we had mutual friends, so we met in high school. So how I got into cryptocurrency, I was actually at Justin's house working on something else when one of our buddies came over, and he just had to talk to us about crypto. He was really enthusiastic.
Right.
And this is one of our friends that, sadly enough, he falls for schemes like BitConnect, USI-Tech. He was actually in USI-Tech.
Oh, really?
regrets
Okay.
it.
Wow.
So he was super enthusiastic, and whenever he says something, we're always cautious. So that's why,
Okay, because you kind of know who he is or
Yeah.
what his personality's like. You're like, oh my gosh, here we go again.
So I always tell Isaac, our buddy's name is Isaac.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't want to just jump into something because I know your history and kind of how you are with these things. But he showed it to me. He told me to watch a video. He had me join a Facebook group. I joined right away. Started reading about it every day, seeing the community of people, and that's exactly what I needed, was a community of people to show me, to teach me, to open my eyes to a different world. It was a new world, and that's what a community is. It just, by myself, I'm enclosed. I don't know anything, but when I'm in this community, I'm seeing through their eyes. I'm reading these posts, seeing all these new websites, these new charts, things that I never knew existed. It's like a whole world existed right before me, but I never knew it was there. Right. So now it's like I'm a part of this world, and I decided to put my money in, and I did research on this coin called Ant Shares. It was labeled as the Chinese Ethereum at the time, and they had a big rebranding event sometime in June, because I got in like early June. Okay. So during this rebranding event, I watched this coin just, kind of like start climbing up. Right. And then, as any event goes, it kind of died down, and I was still up on it, but I knew that crypto was a long-term investment. So about a month later, Justin and I, we actually went away over the summer, so we weren't in the States. When we came back, I noticed that my investment was 6x'd. So I was kind of surprised, and that's what drew me back into crypto, because I was talking about it a little bit on my trip, right. But I didn't think it was going to be as huge as such a large part of my life at that time. I didn't realize that.
You're just dabbling.
Yeah, I just thought this was going to be some small investments. I've never been in the stock market. What I have done in the past was I've done some sports betting. So I've always been a risk taker, if you want to, because even investing in something new, it's a risk. You never know what could happen. But it was really thrilling to me. I was always that kind of person who I just liked to learn something new. I just liked to, if someone told me, hey, you're not going to make money, you can't do this, you're not going to learn, well, then it was like challenge accepted, and right. That's just how my mind works. I just wanted to always prove people wrong, and I had a lot of people tell me, oh, you're wasting your time, it's a scam. And all throughout my journey, the same people would come to me later and say, hey, please teach me.
Right.
So
wow. That's phenomenal. And I just want to point out again that you've really only been into this since around June, you said, right?
Yes.
And within this time frame, and both you guys is kind of started maybe just in this past 6-8 months or whatever it is, but you've been able to scale with not a big starting point, let's say, into 6-7 figure territory, right?
Right.
Which is pretty phenomenal to think about, especially the opportunity presents you at a young age to get into this and do something. And I think just the tip of the iceberg of how this is going to grow and affect society. So I mean it's just a great lesson, and the community lesson is a great lesson too, in terms of how do you discover something new, when you get interested in something, and how you can learn from other people in this really rapid way now, where I think years ago, you might have discovered a subject and you might know one or two other people to connect with, but it's hard to go find them, and you have to really go out of your way to get connected and plan to schedule. There was no Facebook to get to where you could like check on a hourly minute by minute basis what's going on or new information that's coming out, or accessing media reports, etc., or white papers on Google to figure out what all the coins are. I mean, this is the way the world works now. This is kind of my message of the reinvention revolution of, in a matter of months, 6 months, a year, the world can change so dramatically, and you can be a part of this change and take advantage of it and leverage the power of the internet and the power of these new technologies that are happening to for personal gain, or really the way what I'm into these days, and maybe you guys might think of it this way, is lifestyle design. It really, you can decide to live a kind of a different life, and that's the life of the entrepreneur kind of that you're choosing now. You might not live this life the rest of your life, but it's really fun right now because you get to call the shots, you get to have fun, you get to be creative. That's what I like about it, is the creativity part, the technology part of now that you're creating this new agency and such. So when did you get the idea of, thanks for telling your background, by the way, when did you get the idea of putting this all together with all these other guys, and really the vision of the agency start to form? Was Seva the kind of driving point to pull that together for all you guys, now that you found each other and you're creating this community? Like, and where do you think that's going to go? Like, do you have like a larger vision for the agency part?
So yeah, Seva, like I said earlier, Seva came to me. He's the mastermind behind how everything started. So we have Seva to thank for bringing us all together, and he had the experience of building sites, actually like helping us create this company, because none of us really knew how to put something like this together, and Seva had all the tools needed to bring us together. So he's like the glue that sticks us together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, basically when we got together, we decided we want to help other people, just help our friends. Well, first of all, our friends came to us and they're like, please help us, right. What do we do? So I found myself helping so many people, and then once this got started, now it's I could help on a larger scale. So with the larger scale online course, for example, we're going to create an online course where we're each going to have like a section, like I will talk about TA and kind of the technical analysis aspect of it. Justin will talk about some stuff about blockchain and like some fundamentals and how to research, how to find good projects. And we all have these little sections we're going to do, and hopefully we'll reach larger audiences. And the direction we want to head in this company is just, we're not thinking like too far out there, but we're thinking, at least if not, the greater Cleveland area, then with our online course, we're hoping to reach past Cleveland,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
right.
The United States, maybe there could be people in India, maybe that could use our course and enjoy it, or just all over the world. So.
Right. Oh yeah, once you're online, it's all over. So I know there's people here that are visiting or hitting the podcast website from places like Egypt and Australia, New Zealand. I mean, all over the place. So obviously, once you're out there, and if you're offering quality, you're providing real value to people, they're going to find you, and it's going to work. And everybody's it'll be a positive win-win for everybody, because you're creating great value. Obviously, you guys are experienced in it. You have a diverse set of expertises that you're pulling together, so that's kind of unique. You're not just like one-trick pony of, I'm a good technical guy or I'm a good strategic guy or whatever. You have the full breadth and depth of all your personalities, which is nice. So yeah, absolutely. I see it growing, because it's, like I said, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg, and everybody's going to have to try to figure out how to put it in context for their own personal life. Whether they want to be an investor and leverage and get money out of it, or whether they want to understand how it's going to affect their industry, like what type of training they need to keep training themselves with, as time moves on. So because if you're out there working at that 9 to 5 job, or in the corporate world, blockchain is going to affect you. I mean, right now, if you're working for a big bank, for example, I know everybody inside those banks are thinking like, well, what's going to happen in 6 months, or next year, or is my job safe, or if we pivot the bank the right way, we're going to explode maybe, and just have massive opportunity. So yeah, you're definitely going to, the world is going to be watching for sure, I think. So what do you think, Justin, about in terms of seeing how the agency part of it might grow for you?
I think the biggest intentions with this agency, spread education, educate everybody how they can make the most out of this change, how they could benefit financially, or just through their own private or business endeavors. So that'll help them adapt with the change and know how it can benefit them on a larger scale. And then, secondly, I mean, just the biggest thing is there's a lot of money that can be made if you play your cards right.
Sure.
And you understand the market. And so our second really big intention for what we're doing is to help people be financially free and independent, because it's such a amazing opportunity to be able to do so. Such a beautiful thing to not have any debt and to be able to do what you want with your life.
Right.
And we're in a prime time where significant money can be made in a fairly simple manner if you know what you're doing, and that's what we want to provide people opportunity to do.
Right, for a low starting point. I mean, historically, I think it took a lot of money to make a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, that was just kind of how it is. The rich get richer and those kind of things. But I think the power of the internet, the power of blockchain now, et cetera, it's bringing these opportunities to really the average person with not a lot of money, like a few $100s, let's say. You can get started and make a nice chunk for yourself, over time, and not wait 30 years.
Right.
It's just a different equation right now, and it's not clear that it's always going to be like that, but right now that's what it seems to be, right?
Yeah, my grandpa would always tell me a lifetime of if you make the right investment, it's worth a lifetime of labor, and with this, it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
You got your people working your 9 to 5, and their jobs, and making them miserable doing so, and here we are clicking buttons on a computer and having fun.
Right.
And we can do it wherever we want.
And hanging out with your buddies, and it's fun, right?
And we could make that without the misery and the labor, and
right,
within a very short time frame.
I gotcha. So what were you guys actually doing, like, specifically before you got into it? Because you're doing this full time now. I should say that it's not part-time thing for you guys now. You're kind of just building this stuff out. It's fun. You're growing, but you guys weren't leaving a like a big corporate job or something, for example. Just to kind of put this in context of how just different the world is these days.
So I'm 23 years old right now. I was working as a valet, and before that I was just delivering pizzas.
Okay.
So I went to the University of Akron. I actually lived with Justin.
Okay.
For about 2 years there. And after I left Akron, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I definitely didn't want to work a 9 to 5. I was one of those people who always was entrepreneurial, and Justin and I actually had a different startup idea, completely different, which we could save for another day.
Okay.
But that's what we were working on, and we were we had big dreams for that, and we were just putting all of our time into that. So I was delivering pizzas, and then I valeting, and like I said, I sports bet occasionally too. That was kind of my thing. I was like, oh, maybe I could make a lot of money doing this, sports betting.
Right.
But so I was doing those minimum wage jobs and working on that startup that we had. And then luckily for me, over the summer, I ran into crypto. Mm-hmm. So I was still valeting at that point, but I was also investing. And then I think it was around November, I decided to completely stop valeting and just be full-time crypto, because at that point I was grasping it so well, and
right,
anything other than my full attention on crypto was a waste of my time, because if I was on crypto, I was making so much more money than if I was at some hourly rate job.
Sure. Because
that was just taking time away from studying the markets, because this is a global market. It's 24/7. It doesn't rest.
Right.
So I can't rest either.
Right. I gotcha. Cool. And Justin, what were you doing? That's an amazing story, by the way. So Justin, go ahead.
I graduated from the University of Akron with a degree in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. So I was interested in more so the emergency management aspect, being able to help people. That's what I want to do. That's what I've always wanted to do. I just want to be able to help people in any way, shape, or form I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing a lot of volunteer work with the Red Cross and natural disaster relief and response, and but that was volunteer. You know, they have very few paid opportunities, and the few that they have were all boring and administrative jobs. You know, your 9-to-5 desk job.
Right.
So there weren't really too many opportunities for me to have a financial position with the emergency management field unless I were to move somewhere else completely different, and I didn't want to do that. So I was making money with I had a job with a retail jewelry business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a family store.
I see.
And I was also into collecting coins.
Real coins.
Yeah, real coins.
Not crypto
not
coins.
the digital kind.
Okay.
And I had a little online business, just buying and selling coins.
I see.
With that, and then just doing a little bit with stocks too on the side. But that was really slow and
I see.
And boring. So and once this opportunity came along, we saw its potential to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
We knew it was a great way. And we knew it was a great way to help others. This is why we put this all together.
Yeah, I really think the community aspect, at least for me, at least being at Launchhouse, that community, but also the community you guys are developing now around crypto is very fun and interesting, and everybody's kind of helping each other. And
yeah, it's tough doing it on your own.
Right.
I think it'd be very difficult. You know, no matter what your background is, it would be very difficult for anyone to get into this just solely on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Just, the beauty of the community aspect that we're trying to grow here is that you don't have to do it on your own. You'll have a team, friends and family who will guide you through the whole process and explain to you firsthand at whichever rate, whatever rate you want to go through the learning process of all the different aspects behind it. And it's so much easier and funner that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, we have a few minutes left here, but before we get out of here, I have a couple of questions I like to ask folks as we get later in the podcast here. And one of them is, since the whole world is sort of moving very quickly, technology is kind of taking over all our lives. Is there anything out there that's really, you guys, dove into this crazy new crypto world, but is there something about technology or the world, the way the business models are changing, that's kind of like giving you some pause, that's kind of freaking you out, or do you just see kind of just tons of opportunities these days, or how are you seeing the world?
So in my eyes, growing up, I always told myself, if I was a baby boomer, there's no way I wouldn't be like the top of the top, because there were so many things. There was so much land, that was available, cheap, and there were just so many opportunities to capitalize. And I'd read books on entrepreneurs who capitalized in during hard times, like 80s and even like in the 70s, 90s. There were so many good opportunities. It's not that far back, but I was born in 94, so
sure.
I didn't have the same advantages. So I see that like a lot of land, a lot of all the good businesses and all these ideas were all thought of by baby boomers and whatnot, and they already own all this stuff. And Justin and I, how 23, 24-year-olds, how do we get into the system? Like, how do we get into this when everything is owned by all these older people?
Right.
And we're kind of just out of luck.
Right. And you're thinking like all the opportunities have already gone past you, right?
But then, I guess, it's the magic of the world, like things go in full circle. There's always something new that's going to present itself in front of you. And that makes me really excited. I'm very excited for the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life. Even when I'm my grandpa's age, I want to be trying to dive into new things. But a lot of older people, I feel like they're more conservative. They like what they have, and they don't want to dive into anything new. They've been through, like the car industry changing. They've been through, like TVs going from being like 300 pounds to like paper thin.
Right, that's great.
Cell phones, like all these crazy inventions. they've lived through it, and I want to live through. I'm not going to live through that, but
Right.
different things. So
Oh,
this
we'll
is the
be
first
living
step.
through augmented reality and
Yeah.
virtual reality. I mean, just like you said, the magic of the world kind of keeps spinning and keeps spinning out opportunities. And if you have the right outlook and the right open mind, you'll continue to see opportunities. That's just my personal view, but it's very interesting to hear. I guess the way you kind of contextualized it, because it is interesting to hear your perspective. Like you're 23, you're thinking like everything's been invented already, right? All the opportunities, people have all the beachfront property, like there's no opportunity left. But it's really not true in my mind. And you're starting to see that, like, oh my gosh, I see where I could really make an impact now, right?
Yeah, like that's kind of why we had that startup. We were thinking of using futuristic technology in a startup, but we'll talk about that another day.
Okay, all right. Justin, how are you thinking about things these days?
Honestly, that was really well put by Danny.
Yeah.
Feel the same way.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's I know that's what's happening. Like for people that are just coming out of school. I mean, you can go either way with it. You can think like, oh, the world's changing so fast, and I train myself for some other era job or something, or some job that's obsolete now. Or you can realize, hey, in a short period of time, 6 months, 8 months, a year, you can be into some other new thing that doesn't even exist right now, right? And then be the owner of that new thing that's happening. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so my second question for you is, beyond this, now that you're sort of in this zone, I know you have some other things that you were thinking of, other businesses to try, but what do you think might be like a next step for you guys? Like maybe 5 years down the road now. You build out the agency, you're thinking about that. I know there's this other business out there, but what else would you think about getting into?
Do you mean personally, or like not aside from crypto?
Aside from crypto, or
I guess I could briefly talk about. Justin can talk about it a little bit too. So we had a startup idea called Smashzone Entertainment.
Okay.
And that's where you mentioned augmented reality. That's where we'd use augmented reality in a way that you could you could actually help the environment by recycling, because we looked into the way that glass bottles are recycled and how ineffective it is, and how you're not really recycling even if you're throwing it in a recycling bin.
Okay.
So what we plan to do is we plan to help people de-stress by breaking glass bottles in augmented reality games. Kind of like, imagine a zombie game where you'd have a projector projecting the zombie game onto a wall, and then just completely annihilating the zombies with the glass bottles.
Okay, so like throwing the glass bottles at the wall.
Yeah,
something like that.
Have you heard of the break rooms or the?
I've heard of them, but explain to people what that is.
There are places called break rooms. Break rooms, smash rooms, whatever, and all it is people go into this place, and it's like a step behind us. And what they're doing is they have people get bats, and they have a bunch of junk like old computers and TVs and whatnot, and they just have people destroy them to let their anger out with baseball bats.
Okay.
What we're doing is we're kind of taking that to like the future.
I see.
We're taking that, but we're actually helping with recycling, and this is more. We think this is more. This will be like more of an idea that could blow up.
I see. They'll catch on a little bit. Yeah, wrap it around the augmented reality and such. Well, that sounds cool. It's interesting. And now you'll have like more funds to fund it, for sure. Right?
That's why we love crypto so much.
Yeah, right. Got to dig that. What else, Justin? Anything else for you that's out there that you're thinking about? Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's. I love being able to create, and definitely more business startups, thanks to the crypto funds, will be possible in the future. Like I said, the Smashzone concept, playing interactive augmented reality games that are projected on the wall. You use glass bottles as your means to play the games. Those will get recycled, and every time people come in, part of the proceeds go to a reforestation project. So 10 trees will get planted every time someone comes in. It'll also be like a little kind of educational place.
Interesting.
For
Okay.
that as well.
Cool.
And I also am very interested in starting a phytoremediation business where you use plants and other organic materials to clean up polluted land and water sources. That's also another interest of mine.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Cool.
So.
All right. Well, I'm sure you'll be get started on that. Gosh, in another 6 months, you'll
Yeah.
probably be developing all these new businesses.
One step at a time.
We'll do a podcast next year about Smashzone.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. It was great conversation. Great to hear about crypto. If people want to get in touch with you or learn more about Crypto Cleveland or the Facebook community, where can people find you?
So we have cryptocleveland.com,
Okay.
and then you could also go to the Facebook page, which is Cleveland Crypto Collective.
So search Cleveland Crypto Collective on Facebook.
It's a
and
tongue
you can
twister
find it.
because our website's Crypto Cleveland, but the Facebook page is Cleveland Crypto Collective, so
Okay.
it's backwards.
Okay. So those are the two best spots. Again, Justin Cohn and Dan Borovik. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All right.
thanks for
Talk to
having
you
us.
next time. Thank you for listening to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com. See you next time, and remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of.